Good morning. I'm here to bring you your daily mental health enlightenment. And today we are discussing off-limits communication. This video is for that couple who got in such a horrible fight last week and they're still seething that they haven't talked since. And for that man who's sitting back and he wonders why he continues to take being belittled. And for that woman who always finds herself crying all the way through an argument with her partner because they say such horrible things to her. And for that couple who has vowed that they will no longer hurt one another with their words. This video is for you. Do you ever find that your arguments with your partner go way too far and you say things that you don't mean but you can't take back? Or is it that you're the one who ends up beaten up and bruised, emotionally speaking, because of the horrible thing that your partner said to you? Well, I call this phenomenon off-limits communication. When couples engage in unfair fighting and they go outside of the bounds with the things that they say, that is off-limits communication. Did you even know that there was a such thing as off-limits communication, and that there is a boundary that you should not cross when you talk to your loved one? In theory, most people understand that yes, there's a bound that should exist. But I'm telling you, I hear so many horrible excuses that people make to excuse them using inappropriate and off-limits language with the person that they love. I hear things like, I'm just an honest person and that's what it is. I'm someone who was taught not to bite my tongue and that's not going to change. I just keep it 100 all the time and I can't help it. Or, if you can't take me telling you how I feel, then maybe we shouldn't be together. And that's one of the ones I hate the most, because the person then uses guilt and they dangle the relationship in front of the person to make them feel badly about standing up for themselves and trying to set a bound around how they will be treated by the person that they love. Anyway, no matter what the excuse is, there is never a good enough excuse for you to use your words to hurt your partner and to damage the relationship, because that is exactly what happens. See, because when you say terribly out of bounds things, what you do is you introduce a negative energy into the relationship that can't be forgotten and it can't be removed. So now it's always there. And in order to overcome the negative energy that you've introduced, you always have to overwork and overdo in order to overshadow the negative energy that exists. And then by engaging in off-limits communication, you erode the trust within the relationship. How does that happen? If you have the audacity to say such horribly hurtful things to the person that you love, and you're not doing your basic job with them, they can't trust you to do your basic job, which is to take care of their feelings and take care of their sense of emotional safety, then how can they trust you with any other level of trust within the relationship? Because when you're in relationship with someone, the basic component is for you to care for them, for you to take care of them, for you to treat them as you would like to be treated, all of those things. And if you basically with your words on a basic level can't take care of their feelings, if they can't trust you with their feelings, how can there be any other level of trust? Okay, so let's look at specifically some examples of what off-limits communication is. So first, yelling, name-calling, and cursing. Yelling out of anger, yelling to control or manipulate, or yelling in order to inflict fear. All of those things are off-limits communication, because that changes the communication dynamic, and it changes, or it has the potential to change how your partner will respond if they're afraid of what your reaction will be. So then what they'll do is hold back what they're saying. So it's off limits. Name calling is off limits, because when you do that, you relabel your partner and you misidentify who they are. And so what that does is it devalues them as a person. So instead of talking to your partner as who they are, you call them a bitch. So right there, you have misidentified who they are. And bringing that, it convolutes the communication process, because they're either trying to communicate with you on a partial level to disprove that they are a bitch, or two, they're really trying to show you, or you call me a bitch, I'll show you a bitch. Either way, the communication process is now murky because of that. So it's off limits, because you never want to do anything that is going to convolute the healthy and clear communication process. Now, cursing is an off limits communication, because again, if you're doing it out of anger, to control or manipulate, or to inflict fear, then that changes the dynamic of the communication. But also, it's been found that when you curse at someone, it activates the amygdala, which is a part of the brain that's responsible for emotion and our ability to remember things. So when someone curses at you, you have a heightened emotional response. And one of the strongest emotions that lives in the amygdala is anger and rage. So when someone speaks to you by cursing, your anger and rage is then triggered. And so the likelihood of you responding back to them with anger and rage is higher. And again, now the communication process is not clear. It's convoluted by anger and rage. Also, the memories are triggered. So what happens when you curse at someone, you not only cause them to respond to you cursing at them, but you triggered the memories of everyone else who has ever cursed at them. So when they're responding to you, they're giving you a vicious response. And part of that isn't even meant for you in the conversation that you're having. Again, it convolutes the communication process. And so it makes it off limits. Another example of off-limits communication is when you throw up sacred information that a person has shared with you. You throw it back up in their face in order to shut them down, to make them quiet, for you to get a stronger footing, for you to feel a sense of control. That is off limits. Using manipulation tactics that will then change the dynamic of the communication is completely off limits. Using trigger words, phrases, or experiences with a person that they've asked you not to use is off limits. For example, if your partner has told you, don't call me a broken person. I don't like to be called broken. And in the midst of a fight with them, you say, that's why you have so many issues. You're just broken. Now you've used the trigger word that they so responsibly told you is a trigger word, and please don't use with me. You are now out of bounds, and you have engaged in off-limits communication. Using personal information against the person is off limits. If your wife shares with you that her mother has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, in the midst of a fight with her, it is completely off limits and unfair for you to say, that's why you're crazy just like your mother. She got bipolar. You probably have bipolar too. Now, come on. You are completely out of line and off limits with what you're saying. When your partner shared that with you, it was never the intention that you would ever, one, bring it back up without her permission, but two, bring it up in a way to use it against her and belittle her and make her feel bad and get a sense of control and higher footing in an argument with her. Now, the one that I can't stand the most that couples do all the time, they threaten divorce or to end the relationship as a manipulation tool, not because they ever really plan on ending the relationship. That is off limits communication. Divorce or ending the relationship should never come up unless you truly are at the point where you are ready to divorce or end the relationship. And people who throw that out every week, every 2 weeks, every time there's a fight that happens, you are off limits. Okay, so now let's look really quickly at 5 things that you can do to begin to address your off-limits communication patterns. So the first thing that you can do is begin to identify and resolve the hurt within yourself that is causing you to spew hurt out onto the one that you love. What's the saying? Hurt people hurt people. So in order for you to say things that hurt your partner so much, there must be some unidentified, unresolved hurt inside of you that would be beneficial for you to identify, look at, and resolve. The second thing that you can do is address the overall relationship dynamic that contributes to you having such a defensive stand when you communicate and argue with your partner. And I say this because for you to be in a position where you're throwing daggers, you're on the defense, you're trying to hurt them, it's bigger than the argument that you're in. There must be an overlying dynamic in the relationship within which you don't feel safe. So you feel on the defense. And so whenever an argument comes, boom, you're ready for the fight because you already feel unsafe in the relationship. So you and your partner need to look at the overall relationship dynamic and what has you all feeling defensive in the first place. The third thing that you can do is address your own self-esteem issues that makes it hard for you to strongly and confidently stand in how you feel without having to convolute it with anger, with daggers, with being defensive in the things that you say. Because if you can't be clear cut about what you mean, a part of that means that I am uncertain in who I am enough to boldly state this is how I feel without having to say it in a way that demeans you and puts you down. If I'm demeaning and putting you down, it's because there's something in me that feels unworthy, demeaned, and put down. The fourth thing that you can do is be clear about how you really feel so that you can clearly state and communicate how it is that you feel. A lot of times, and we've talked about this in my past videos, people do not understand themselves as much as they think they do. They don't know what their triggers are. They don't really know what their values are, what they stand for. They don't understand how their past impacts them now. And so when you don't understand these inner workings of yourself, it is hard for you to have a clear footing about this is where I stand on this, and this is how I feel and why. And that's how this convoluted, murky communication of attacking happens, because I'm actually really not clear about what my standpoint is. But I want to win. But I want to end up on top. So this is what I'm going to do instead. And finally, one last thing that you can do to improve your off-limits communication patterns is to learn healthier and better ways to communicate, because some of this simply comes from the things that you were taught. In this world, we are taught to always be aggressive and come at the other person. Don't let the other person see you weak. Don't wear your emotions on your sleeve. We're taught these things, and so we take these cruel world rules and apply them to our relationship that's supposed to be safe and secure and full of peace and loving, right? So we've got to relearn healthier ways to communicate. And sometimes we've watched our parents and our grandparents communicate in these off-limits ways. So we've learned how to communicate in those ways as well. All right, I hope that this video has helped you. I've had a lot of fun just sharing this stuff because I think it's so pertinent. I see this all the time, and we were talking about romantic relationships, but this communication stuff can transcend into all relationships. So, what is the message? To think about mental health in a different way, a way that helps you to understand that your communication patterns are a part of your mental health. And I'll see you next week.